Thank you, sir. So this is the first slide. So next slide. Good morning, everyone. Without taking much of your time, I would like to get directly into the presentation that we've prepared. So before getting into Rahulji's journey to Tibet, I would want to introduce you about on how Buddhism was introduced in Sikkim. So you see the map here. This is the map. So firstly, I would like to read out some aspects or some points about how Buddhism spread from the face of Asia from India. It commenced in the age of the imperial Mauryas in three successive waves. The first and the earliest of these waves led to the establishment of Southern Buddhism. It led to the establishment of Southern Buddhism across the Indian subcontinent and the Indian Ocean complex, comprising the Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and the countries of Indochina. And then the second wave carried Buddhist missionaries along the ocean-going trade routes, taking Buddhism to the shores of China, Japan, and Korea. And finally, the third wave carried Buddhism across difficult land routes and highland passes into Tibet, from where it ultimately coalesced into three distinctive doctrinal streams of Northern Buddhism, each tracing out the paths that have had been. No, 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 no. Okay. So, mm. And then Buddhism finally reached, this is the third slide, Himalayan borderlands. It shows the map of Sikkim in between Nepal and Bhutan. And on the northern portion of Sikkim, we have Tibet region. So Buddhism finally reached Tibet in the 7th century, more than 1,000 years after the passing of the Buddha, with the expansion of the Tibetan Empire under the Yarlung dynasty, King Songtsen Gampo. And it was towards the middle of the 8th century, a tantric adept, that is Guru Padmasambhava, he journeyed to Tibet from the Ladakh Kashmir region to the north of the Himalaya, encountering the Bon in the Kailash Mansarovar region, and consequently, Buddhism entered Sikkim much later in the 17th century, making its entry from the north. So the traces of Bon, it's still being dominant, are hence found among isolated monastic communities which are scattered across the Himalayas. The next slide shows the sectarian division of Buddhist monasteries in Sikkim from 1642 to 2024. 1642 because the recorded history of Sikkim, we have recorded history from the year of 1642. So this was the. Okay, now this is the third slide. Okay, so. Okay. So this is the fourth slide, which shows the sectarian division of Buddhist monasteries in Sikkim. This was how this was the slide which I had presented recently in the Namgyal Institute of Tibetology, which shows how Buddhism was spread across Sikkim with the construction of different monasteries, different sect monasteries. So the fourth, we have the dominant sect that we have in Sikkim is Nyingma sect, Kargyu sect, Sakya, and Bon. But in terms of Sakya monastery, we only have one monastery, and Bon we have only two monasteries. So the dominant one that is there in Sikkim, the followers of Nyingma sect. And also, if you look in this slide, in this section, that is during the reign of fourth Chogyal, that is Jurmi Namgyal. It was only during Jurmi Namgyal's what do you say reign that the spread of Buddhist monasteries, otherwise the spread of Buddhist monasteries following the Kargyu sect has been established. Then next time. And the next slide shows the region-wise growth of Buddhist monasteries in Sikkim. It shows it was first in the west region or west district of Sikkim that Buddhism started, and it was from West Sikkim the monastery started spreading, and it started it started spreading towards the other parts of Sikkim. So in today's time, currently we have 111 monasteries in Sikkim. Introducing Rahul ji, about I would want to take you to some portion of Sikkim history, where we know that with the um, um, advanced of Britishers in Sikkim, Britishers were more interested in developing trade links to Tibet via Sikkim. We know only about the trade routes uh, that was trying to be that was being opened to Tibet via Sikkim. But then the passage, the Sikkim being used as a passage by travelers, by scholars, and by monks to Tibet has not been recorded yet. So one of the scholars who had used who had made use of Sikkim as a passage to Tibet along his journeys was Rahulji, and in one of in his forward in Bauddha Sanskriti, he has written about his journey that for close to 37 years in my wanderings across the regions of the world, my work has been to trace the footsteps of my ancestors. Next slide. Next slide shows a picture of him in his Masuri house in 1954. Slide. This is the picture of him as a monk. Just after his first journey to Tibet, he attained monkhood. Yes, and this is a picture taken in Sri Lanka in 1935. Uh, and then where is written that from Tibet he rediscovered lost heirlooms relating to India's Buddhist past. A versatile scholar in Sanskrit, Pali, and other classical languages, his life's work was their restoration and drew the world's instant attention. So it was mainly after he attained monkhood that most of his journeys to Tibet was made. Slide. It was in the year of 1929 to 1930 that he made his first journey to Tibet, and it was made in disguise. So there is a story behind why he had to make his journey to Tibet in disguise. That's a different story altogether. And during his first journey, he made a vast collection of Tibetan scroll paintings, block printed text, and art objects. And it was after he returned back from Tibet, from his first journey to Tibet, after he returned from there, then in the year of 1930, he was ordained a Buddhist monk on his return to Sri Lanka and took the name of as Rahul Sankrityayan. The next slide shows the journeys that he had taken to Tibet uh, from Kathmandu, and I've made it in the bold letter, the several monasteries that he had visited while during his journey from Kathmandu till he returned through Sikkim to Kalimpong. So the bold lettered words that you see are the monasteries that he visited while his stay at Tibet. Next picture shows you, these are some of his pictures that he had taken while his Tibetan journeys. The first picture that you see here is one taken from Shumbi Valley. And then this picture that you see, he has mentioned in his yatra, Jivan Yatra, about his Tibetan journeys, where he has mentioned that it was quite difficult for them to find a pony to make their travels, and this is one of the pictures that he had taken with him on a pony. Next. So his second journey to Tibet was made in the year of 1934, and among the four journeys to Tibet, his second journey was the major one, because he had taken he had gone to extra mile from Lhasa as well. From Lhasa, he had gone to Rating also. So so from among his four journeys, his second journey is supposed to be the major. Longest journey of them all. So in his second journey, he made his first discovery of original palm leaf manuscripts of lost Buddhist texts in the original Sanskrit at the ancient monastery of Sakya in southern Tibet. And he was also conferred the title of Mahapandita by the Kashi Pandit Sabha at Varanasi for this momentous discovery that opened new vistas in the study of Sanskrit literature. And he also met Gedun Chopel during his second journey to Tibet. The second, this next slide also, like I wouldn't want to get further into this. But then these were the traces. This was journeys that he had made while his second travel to Tibet. So this map is basically a map which was developed by Kazuo Kano, which shows his second Tibet journeys. He started from Kathmandu, he had gone to Sakya, and then Gyalshing, and then he had gone to Lhasa. From Lhasa, expecting that he would get further more new manuscripts there to reading. He had gone to reading, but then he had to return back to Lhasa, dissatisfied. And
Kazuo Kano had actually retraced the journey and kept the GPS coordinates. Therefore, we can see the extent of his travels.
Yes, from Kathmandu to Sakya, and then he had gone to Lhasa to Rating, and he returned back from Rating to Lhasa and back to Kalimpong via Sikkim. So Sikkim has been not just the trade route, but also a passage for many of the travelers like Rahulji. Slide shows he had written on his Tibet journeys. He's written that I still remember at Sakya Monastery, built in the 11th century on the roof of the Lakhang Chenpo, there is a little room, the site of which provides little indications that in its interior there lie over 40 bundles of priceless Sanskrit manuscripts from the 10th, 11th, and 12th centuries. In these volumes are found Ashwaghosh, Asang, Vasubandhu, Dharmakirti, and Pragyakar Gupta, and such other unparalleled scholars from India, whom the world has believed to be extant only in Tibetan or Chinese translation, with the original works lost forever. This is his pictures with the manuscripts that you see in front of him are the manuscripts at Sakya. These are the pictures of the Sakya monasteries that he'd been there while his second journey. 1934 was his second journey that he had made to Tibet. In 1936 and in 1938 were the years where he had made his third and his final. The fourth was his final journey to Tibet. And there also he had stayed, and during his third and fourth journey, he didn't visit Lhasa. It was only till Sakya he had made he had stayed more in Sakya. This is his travel routes during his third journey. I'm not getting into it. This is the map again. See, if you can see, he had come from the north and he had entered, like he returned from the north. If you can go back to this, see. In this, while returning from Tibet, he had come through Lachen Pass, which is in Sikkim, Lachen, Chungthang, Mangan, Dikchu, and to Gangtok, and then he had gone to Kalimpong. So these were the routes that he had taken via Sikkim. This is him. This is the picture of him at the extreme right while he stayed at Nor Monastery in 1934. These were also his routes of his fourth Tibetan journey to Tibet. And also you can see in the last portion, C section, while he returned during his return journey, he had come from Lachen, Chungthang, Mangan, Dikchu, Lingtok, and Gangtok. These are the places that is in Sikkim. So he had taken his routes. He had passed through Sikkim. So this is the picture. This is the mapping of his fourth journey, where he had not gone. He didn't go towards Lhasa.
He stayed within Sakya.
Yeah, he stayed within Sakya, and he came via Sikkim. So this is the same map. There's a small while his journey from Sikkim to Lhasa, there are some things mentioned, like he left Kalimpong on 16th of April 1934 and arrived at Lhasa on 19th May. This is Sikkim. from Gyantok. Then he had gone to Lhasa. Lhasa is, I think it's around here. And his first encounter with Sanskrit manuscripts on that expedition was at Kundaling Monastery in Lhasa. Though he heard of rumors of Sanskrit manuscripts kept in Samye, Mindoling, Nor, and Sakya, he thought that rating, that was the journey that he had taken from Lhasa, rating was the most likely monastery in which to find Sanskrit manuscripts since he had contact with Rating Lama. He also met Gendung Chopel in Lhasa, who accompanied him all the way to India. And this is it was written in his Meri Jivan Yatra, volume 2, page number 229 to 252. Then he left Lhasa on 30th of July and arrived at Rating on 5th of August. Arriving at Rating, he was shocked to find out that Rating Lama said nothing about manuscripts in his letter and all his efforts were in vain. Therefore, he had to return back to Lhasa, and then he came to Lhasa from Rating and then he left Lhasa on 8th of September. He finally found a number of Sanskrit manuscripts in Pokhang, Shalu, Gnor, and Sakya. He stayed in Sakya about 2 weeks and then left for Nepal. This was basically the slides that I showed you, the journey that I showed you was from his major journey, that is his second journey to Tibet. This is the picture of him in Kalimpong in 1949. This is a picture which Jeta sir will explain more about you in detail. This is the stupa that we still have in Darjeeling. And this is the bust. On this picture that you see, this was during 1960 and during 1996. We have Professor Kamala, his wife in middle, and Rahulji's wife in the middle, and with his eldest son, Igor Rahulovich, and his wife, Yana. And in the middle, at the back, standing at the back, is Professor Jeta. And Igor and Professor Jeta had met a year earlier in 1995 while his visit to St. Petersburg. And a year later in 1996, he made his first visit to Darjeeling or in India. And that was the time he had taken this picture. And this is the last slide. He's written, "Why did I write my life's journey? I had always kept feeling that if other travelers who traversed roads like mine had written of their own sojourn through life, I would have greatly benefited not only by gaining foreknowledge, but also by making an economy of time. I concede that any two of life's courses will never be exactly similar, yet there can be no doubt that all lives have to sail on the tides and impulses of identical outer and inner worlds. Why should I have chosen to write off my life's journey instead of writing an autobiography? Leaders would have to read the books for an answer. I have, through my writing, attempted to sketch the varied places and peculiarities of a world that the third generation after ours would have difficulty in imagining in much the same manner as I have written on other themes without first teaching myself formally to write. I find myself to be an unlettered in the art of writing a life's journey. Formal education is of no mean value, but it has been my misfortune never to have received an opportunity for it." So this is my last slide. The next slide, Professor Jeta shall introduce you about. So I request Professor Jeta to kindly continue with the last. Okay.
This is an exhibition that I had prepared 30 years ago when the centennial was on. At that time, it was a physical exhibition. It had photographs and it had like basically mounted quotes and all. Now, this exhibition was digitized. And since we are dealing with Rahulji in this age of digitalization, some of the potential will come across. What we're actually looking at is the family album, because it has pictures of Rahulji at different stages of his life. And through this, I'm also trying to explore the intellectual roads that Rahulji took through his journeys to Tibet. So the title of the presentation as a whole is Roads to Tibet. We're looking at another side of the roads to Tibet. This is the earliest picture that we have of him. So before he became a big picture taken in Prayag. just before his first journey to Sri Lanka. He had gone to Sri Lanka to teach Sanskrit and to learn Pali and to learn the Buddhist scriptures. We get an idea of Rahulji's personality because the second picture is basically Rahulji in a Masuri home. You can see his head and shoulders above his companions.
Okay. Now, this is the next slide, the person. Can you see it? Yeah, yeah. Is it not? Okay. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. I think I have to end this, okay? Stop presenting.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
just a
Okay.
minute.
Okay, I'll share the another one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, I'm doing it. Hmm. Yes. Do you see it? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So this is his picture of him at Masuri with his companions that he had just that Professor just mentioned. So the person.
The as a young man, this is the earliest picture that we have. We have of him taken in 1929 in Allahabad. At that time, he was still using the name Ramodar Sadhu, and he was preparing for his journey to Sri Lanka, where he had joined Vidyalankar Parivina as a teacher of Sanskrit and a student of the Tripitak.
The portraits.
This is an example of Rahulji as a person. He was a very simple person, soft-spoken, not very, not very combative, not very debating, always willing to accommodate other people's opinions. And this picture is taken in Nalanda, actually in Sarnath, sorry. Another meeting in Mussoorie in 1953, I think. This is Rahulji at rest after a literary meeting in Kanpur, picture you already seen. After he took the robes in Sri Lanka at the same university where he had taught. This was at the house of a Japanese Sanskritist. Rahulji was in Japan in 1935. Then Rahulji had an activist thing. He was not just a literary scholar or a Sanskritist or a classical scholar, but he was also an activist. Because for him, the message of Buddhism was a revolt against the established order of the time and a way of like basically removing the divisions that existed in society. So he was active in his own field, in the field where he had previously been a sadhu, in the Parsa Ekma Saran area of Bihar. This is at a Kisan Sabha meeting. In the left picture, he's with his two Guru Bhais. Bante Anand Kaushalyan is to his left, and Mante Mahanam from Nepal is to his right. And Rahulji had just left the robes, and he had around taken this costume because he had become a peasant activist. And very shortly thereafter, because of the Ambadi Satyagraha, he was arrested. So the Bihar newsman actually shot the picture of him basically tied up like a common criminal. This is Rahulji when he was teaching at Sri Lanka at the Vidyalankar University in 1959 to 1961, taking the university. This is Rahulji at Leningrad University when he was teaching. He was a professor of Hindi at Leningrad University. This is Igor Rahulovich at the age of 5 with his mother, Yelena. Rahulji at the very controversial Hindi Sahitya Sammelan meeting held in Mumbai in 1948, as a result of which Rahulji actually parted from the Communist Party for a certain period because of his views were not acceptable to the party hierarchy of the time. Next to Rahulji is Govind Vallabh Pant. This is Rahulji in 1959 receiving the Sahitya Academy Award for his Madhya Asia Ka Itihas from the hands of Jawaharlal Nehru. This is Rahulji in Banaras, I think, with Mahakavi Nirala. Remember this trip because I was on this trip. This is again at the Mumbai Hindi Sahitya Sammelan meeting. Missouri in a Republic Day gathering, speaking. This is meeting Burmese writers at Myanmar during his visit to China, on the way to China. The vision that Rahulji had shows up in his writing. So he was a visionary. He had an ambition of what India should look like in the future. And some of the portraits that reveal this are, for example, this picture. This is an interesting picture because Swami Pranavanand, at that time he was known as Master Sumayujulu, and Rahulji were both fellow students at the Arya Musavir Vidyalaya at Agra. And then they met in Kathmandu. A.P. Jaiswal was also there in the meeting. This picture was taken by A.P. Jaiswal, I think. And after a long time, the two people who had started their life's journeys together were photographed together. Swami Pranavananda and Rahul Sankrityayan. This picture is an interesting history because we know that between 1949 to early 1950s, the Communist Party was illegal in India. And a comrade of Rahulji was actually staying at a house in Mussoorie. My mother and I was not yet born at the time of this. So they were in Kalimpong. When my mother returned, she found Rahulji sporting a beard because all the comrades at that time had been hiding their identities between beards. So Rahulji had also been persuaded to keep a beard. Then my mother told him that ये आपने क्या कर लिया ये आप ये काट लीजिए. So Rahulji said ठीक है एक तस्वीर हो जाए कम से कम एक यादगार तो रहेगी. That's how this picture came to be snapped. Rahulji at his working desk in the Mussoorie house, he wrote 54 books. There is one place he had a stable house and a very productive period in terms of his literary output. Again at his study desk in Mussoorie. This picture has very important people from Tibet present. It has the two Pandasang brothers who were basically traders at Kalimpong. It has Rani Chuni Dorji, who was the aunt of the last Chogyal of Sikkim. It has the Jigme Dorji family, the sisters of, and also various scholars in India who were working at that time on the technical glossary in that time. Certain glossaries were being prepared. Prashashanik Shabdakosh. This meeting was called on Buddha Jayanti, and it's in a small village just outside Kalimpong. This is a picture taken in 1961. This is when Rahulji had retired from Sri Lanka. And we have my mother, Amma, Papa, Jaya to Rahulji's left, and Jeta is to my mother's right. I was 6 years old at the time. Jaya was 8. This is the picture taken on his 70th birthday in 9th April 1963. This was the last night when he was conscious. In the night, he slipped into coma, and 5 days later, he was gone. This picture. This. The next. This is the memorial stupa, which records his life and has some Buddhist records inside the stupa, which memorialize Rahulji in Darjeeling. And Archana has already read this journey too. So even though I think I was a bit of an uninvited guest because I did not know about this very important conference, I was actually in hospital. I still had stitches on my head at the time. But the day I came out of hospital, a good friend let me know that a major conference was planned, and I thought that the only way I can actually be present on the occasion is to present this paper. So I hope some light has been shed on Rahulji's work and also on his life. And I'll be there also for the questions and answers. Thank you.
This is a question to Jeta. Since you're online, I must say you've been very patient and have been listening to the entire narrative. And I'm sure you're very impressed by the depth and the intensity of the work which was done by your own father. I want to ask you, he was an amazing person. I mean, as a person, I mean, leave aside the work which he has done, the determination, the commitment, the josh which he had, like literally like a madman traveling across the world, not worried about left and right or planning, etc., which people do nowadays. Uh, how many of the countries that he has traveled have you tried to travel to and have you been to? I just want to hear your story on his footsteps.
When I was 3 years old, Jaya, I and my mother, we had to travel to China because he was in China and he had a cardiac attack there. So we were called to basically bring him back. So we spent a month in China at that point of time. Then in Sri Lanka, when he was teaching at Vidyalankar, we went there for 2 winter vacations. And then in 1995, when the St. Petersburg's University organized a seminar, then I traveled to Russia. That's the time I had to take a passport again. And at that point of time, basically, I met Igor Rahulovich, my eldest brother, for the first time. And the subsequent year, Igor Rahulovich came to India for the first time. So these are the countries that I visited. And in transit, to China, we actually spent some time in Myanmar, Burma.
Thanks, Jeta, for that. Is there anything else that you would like to add that you perhaps missed out mentioning? Because we're very eager to hear you.
I'm addressing a comment, not a question, but a comment, because the second speaker also mentioned Durlabh Granth. अब आज से 30 साल पहले भी जब शतवर्ष की मनाई गई थी, लिखा जा रहा था, कहा जा रहा था मंचों से दुर्लभ ग्रंथ. तो दुर्लभ ग्रंथ जब तिब्बत में संरक्षित थे तभी दुर्लभ ग्रंथ थे. राहुल जी ने ये 1930s में इन ग्रंथों को फिर से भारत में उपलब्ध कराया, लेकिन उसके बाद भी कोई विशेष शोध इन पर नहीं हुई. तो पाठकों के लिए आज की जो जनरेशन है उनके लिए ये ग्रंथ अभी भी दुर्लभ है. 2018 में हम पटना म्यूजियम गए थे, वहां पे भी एक सभा हुई थी. वहां पे फिर पहली बार हमने देखा कि ग्रंथों का डिजिटलाइजेशन हुआ है. सारनाथ के कुछ शास्त्रियों लामा जियों ने उस पर डिजिटल एंट्री की थी. हमने वहां उनसे कहा था कि आप यदि इसकी प्रतिलिपि हमको दे दे, कि हम भी रुचि रखते हैं कि क्या है इस ग्रंथ में. और हमारा विशेष इंटरेस्ट था कि 1610 मिसलेनियस मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स थी जो कि कंग्यूर तंगूर के बाहर हैं. वो जो ग्रंथावली थी उसमें राहुल जी के ये जो मतलब नालंदा का जो पतन हुआ था, जो रेड हुई थी, और तब मतलब उस समय जो तिब्बत के साथ आदान प्रदान होता था, उस समय जो लोग तिब्बत से लोत्सावा लोग आते थे, उनके लिखे हुए ग्रंथ, तब की भौतिक भूगोल, तब के ऐसे बहुत सारे ग्रंथ थे जिसका वर्णन आपको अनिरुद्ध झा का 1963 में पटना म्यूजियम से जो कैटलॉग निकला था उसमें छोटा सा वर्णन है. हमको ये भी याद है कि सन 95 में हम सेंट पीटर्सबर्ग गए थे. तो सेंट पीटर्सबर्ग में वोस्तोकविच इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ओरिएंटल स्टडीज कहलाया जाता है. वहां पे 4 लामा मिले थे हमको. एक तो सुनादा के ही थे, हमारे दार्जिलिंग के इलाके के, जो वहां पे ग्रंथावली बना रहे थे कि क्या क्या है इन पांडुलिपि में, उसका वर्णन किया जा रहा था. तो पटना में एक कलेक्शन रहा, संजो के रखा गया, लेकिन सीमित रखा गया क्योंकि सोसाइटी में कुछ गड़बड़ होने के नाते ताला पड़ गया था. मैं कुल 3 बार गया हूँ. सबसे पहली बार तो सन 58 में गया था, राहुल जी के साथ ही गया था. मैं छोटा था, 3 साल की उम्र में. So at that point of time, basically, the collection was open to us. The next time I went was during the centenary, because we were, Jaya and I were there all together. My mother was also there. So as a special gesture, they opened the collection to us. We saw that these manuscripts are kept with little slips in Rahulji's own handwriting, identifying the manuscripts, but no further work had been done. Then again, when I went in 2018, I saw that finally been catalogued and they had been basically listed. But I think the time has come to actually see what these things contain, because these 1610 manuscripts are not about Tibet as much as they are about India. और हिंदी में जिन्होंने लिखा है 35 साल पहले भी यही लिखा जा रहा था. आज हमारे द्वितीय वक्ता जो थे अखिलेश जी, उन्होंने कहा दुर्लभ ग्रंथ. दुर्लभ ग्रंथ को हमको अनुमान करना चाहिए कि क्या थे. एक तो तालपत्र थे, उनकी एक प्रतिलिपि होती थी. हस्तलिखी ग्रंथ थे. छापा खाना तो था नहीं उस समय. तालपत्र में कोई यदि तालपत्र की हस्तलेखन से यदि नकल करते तो फिर उसकी प्रतिलिपि होती. तिब्बत में वो जब उनका अनुवाद हुआ, तिब्बत में क्योंकि ब्लॉक प्रिंट था, बिकॉज वुडन ब्लॉक्स पर से प्रिंट होता जाता था, तो इसलिए उनका एक मैस प्रोडक्शन हुआ. कई जगह उसकी प्रतिलिपि बनी, लेकिन जो संस्कृत में मूल प्रतिलिपि थी अभी तक दुर्लभ इसलिए है कि उसका अभी रिस्टोरेशन नहीं हुआ है. यदि रेस्टोरेशन हो जाए, इस आज की जो ये महत्वपूर्ण आप लोगों की संगोष्ठी हो रही, इसके माध्यम से यदि रेस्टोरेशन की कोई प्रणाली बनाई जाए तो फिर ये दुर्लभ ग्रंथ दुर्लभ नहीं रहेंगे, जनता के पास पहुंचेंगे, स्कॉलर्स के पास पहुंचेंगे और जो इतिहासविद हैं उनके पास भी पहुंचेंगे. यही मैं इस संगोष्ठी का महत्वपूर्ण इसी में देखता हूँ.
कोई हाँ नहीं, कोई यहाँ से कोई रिस्पॉन्स है टिप इंस्टीट्यूट से, या would somebody like to say something? No. Okay.
जहाँ तक तिब्बती संस्थान के द्वारा जो काम हो रहा है तो उस पर आर्टिकल मेरा कल सुबह है. तो फिर भी मैं, क्योंकि आपने पूछा है, जो राहुल संकृत्यायन ने जो लगभग 80 ग्रंथों की सूची हमें मिलती है, तो उसमें से विशेष करके हम लोगों ने जो बौद्ध तंत्र ग्रंथों के संपादन का हम लोगों ने उसमें से योजना ली हुई है. तो उसमें से विशेष करके इस समय 3 उसमें संग्रह हैं. एक है उसमें से हे वज्रादि संग्रह, एक है जी उसमें से पंचकर्मादि संग्रह, और एक है कुल मिलाकर बुद्ध अमरादि संग्रह. तो इन तीनों में वैसे उस सूची में तो केवल जो है 3 ही शीर्षक है, लेकिन उसके अंतर्गत जब हम लोगों ने यहाँ पर काम करना शुरू किया तो उसमें लगभग 67 ग्रंथ निकला है. तो अभी हम लोगों ने 67 ग्रंथ में से 46 ग्रंथ जो है एक यहाँ से दी शोध पत्रिका निकलती है उसके माध्यम से छाप चुके हैं, और बाकी जो है 6 ग्रंथ और हम अभी इधर लगभग 1-2 महीने में छापने को तैयार हैं. तो इस तरह से कुल 67 में से 52 ग्रंथ हम लोग लगभग अब समझिए कि हम लोगों ने छाप दिया है. तो बाकी जो है उसमें 7-8 ग्रंथ और हैं. तो उनमें से कुछ ग्रंथ हम लोगों ने यहाँ से पहले छाप दिया था. अब उसमें से ये देखना है कि जो पहले छपा हुआ ग्रंथ और जो राहुल जी ने वहाँ से लाया हुआ है, अगर उन दोनों का संस्करण समान है तब तो हम लोग नहीं छापेंगे. अगर उसमें संस्करण में कुछ अंतर है तो उसको फिर से हम लोग वो भी छापेंगे. तो यह मेरे कहने का आशय ये है कि तिब्बती संस्थान के शोध विभाग से हम लोग वहाँ पर पटना म्यूज़ियम में 3 बार गए, और जाने के बाद राहुल कक्ष में की स्थिति बहुत ही दयनीय थी उस समय. तो फिर यहाँ के लोगों ने जा करके वहाँ पर उन सामग्रियों को देखा, और ख़ास करके कंजूर तंजूर का जो भी संग्रह था उन सब को ठीक करके उसके बाद उसकी सूची बनाई गई. और उसके बाद बहुत संस्कृत पांडुलिपियों का, क्योंकि जो सूत्र है, न्याय है और जो प्रमाण आदि ग्रंथों का प्रकाशन तो काफ़ी हद तक राहुल जी के समय में भी और फिर बाद के विद्वानों ने भी किया है. लेकिन जो तंत्र वाला ग्रंथ है उसको 2-3 ग्रंथों को छोड़ करके कहीं से भी छप करके नहीं आया है. तो फिर हम लोगों की जो योजना है उसमें हम लोगों को ये वाला स्टार्टिंग से ही था मालूम, लेकिन वहाँ का जो कुछ भी कानूनी उसमें जब पड़ जाने के कारण से हम लोगों को उसका अवसर ही नहीं मिला. तो जब हम लोग वहाँ गए तो ये है 2013 के आसपास थे. तो 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17 हम लोग कई संख्या में हम लोग जा करके फिर जब हमने वहाँ खोज की तो अब ये है कि उसमें से बहुत तंत्र के ग्रंथों को हम लोगों ने पटना म्यूज़ियम के साथ के साथ संबंध बना करके छापने की योजना बनाई है और उसमें से 46 ग्रंथ ऑलरेडी हम छाप, वो सब का सब जो है जो वो सारा ग्रंथ जो है वो बहुत सिद्धों की है। उसमें सारा पाद भी है, नागार्जुन भी है, चंद्रकीर्ति भी, और बाकी 9वीं 10वीं शताब्दी के बाद के सभी लगभग 9वीं से लेकर के 12वीं शताब्दी तक के जो सिद्ध हैं उन सब की वो है। तो उन सब ग्रंथों को अभी हम वैसे कल सुबह मेरा उसमें वो है, तो फिर मैं उस आर्टिकल में मैंने यही दिखाने की कोशिश की है कि इस तिब्बती संस्थान के द्वारा जो बहुत तंत्र साहित्यों का हमने प्रकाशन किया है उसकी क्या स्थिति है। जी
Any last words before you log off, Jeta ji?
Yes, इस संगोष्ठी के माध्यम से हमारा ये सारनाथ के CIHT से संबंध बना, ये इसके लिए हमारा ये सौभाग्य है कि ये संबंध बना। ये संवाद यदि पहले ही हुआ होता तो और ज्यादा प्रगाढ़ संबंध बने होते। लेकिन थोड़ा हम परिवार के नुमाइंदे के रूप से कह रहे हैं कि परिवार को यदि आप लोग ने शामिल किया होता ना इस योजना में, तो परिवार से तो आपको सहयोग ही मिलता है। ठीक है, देर आए दुरुस्त आए, इस माध्यम से एक संबंध। और दो महत्वपूर्ण काम राहुल जी ने किए थे। एक तो उनकी तिब्बती संस्कृत शब्दकोश था, जो कि सन 35 में उन्होंने 1935 में रशिया में बैठ करके उन्होंने शुरू किया था। यानी कि जो क्लासिकल टिबेटन से संस्कृत में यदि पुनर्अनुवाद किया जाए तो एक सूची बनाई थी। ये बाद में हमारे की माँ के हाथ KP जायसवाल इंस्टीट्यूट के पास भेजा गया था कि वो लोग छापने का, उन्होंने 60s की बात है, उन्होंने छापने का प्रोग्राम किया था, फिर वो छपा नहीं। और साथ में अंतिम दिनों में राहुल जी ने एक तिब्बती हिंदी शब्दकोश बनाया जो कि साहित्य अकादमी के पास था। उसका पहला खंड छपा, दूसरा खंड कभी नहीं छपा। और जहां तक हमको मालूम है इसके बारे में, हमने विद्वान से 2 जगह हमने पूछा भी था। सुनीति पाठक जी जो कि विश्व भारती में तिब्बती सलाहकार थे, प्राध्यापन करते थे, उनके पास ये दोनों खंड पहुंच गए थे। वो तिब्बती मतलब आजकल जो तिब्बती प्रचलित भाषा है उसके स्कॉलर थे। लेकिन जिस वजह से राहुल जी ने ये शब्दकोश तैयार किया था उसका फिर आलोकन नहीं होने, उनसे कहा भी था। एशियाटिक सोसाइटी में 2018 में जो सभा हुई थी वहां पे भी पूछा था, सुनीति जी ने कहा था कि हाँ ये मैं कर जाऊंगा। तो ये जो उनका 2 शब्दकोश थे, एक तो तिब्बती संस्कृत शब्दकोश जो कि KP जायसवाल इंस्टीट्यूट के माध्यम से सुनीति पाठक जी के पास पहुंच गई थी, और जो हिंदी तिब्बती हिंदी शब्दकोश थी जो कि साहित्य अकादमी के पास सुनीति पाठक के पास गई थी। इसको यदि आप किसी तरह से इसका यदि इस प्रकाश पड़े तो अच्छा रहेगा।